Prologue 1. The First Apocalypse. A quote from Agensis, the third analytic of men. If it is only after that we understand what has come before, then we understand nothing. Thus, we shall define the soul as follows: that which precedes everything. 2147, Year of the Tusk, the Mountains of Demua. One cannot raise walls against what has been forgotten. The citadel of Ishual succumbed during the height of the apocalypse, but no army, human or inhuman, had scaled its ramparts. No furnace-hearted dragon had pulled down its mighty gates. Ishual was the secret refuge of the Kunioric High Kings, and no one, not even the No-God, could besiege a secret. Months earlier, Anasarimber Genrilka, High King of Kuniori, had fled to Ishual with the remnants of his household. From the walls, his sentries stared pensively across the dark forests below, their thoughts stricken by memories of burning cities and wailing multitudes. When the wind moaned, they gripped Ishual's uncaring stone, reminded of shrank horns. They traded breathless reassurances. Had they not eluded their pursuers? Were not the walls of Ishual strong? Where else might a man survive the end of the world? The plague claimed the High King first, as was perhaps fitting. Genrilka had only wept at Ishual, raged the way only an emperor of nothing could rage. The following night the members of his household carried his bier down into the forests. They glimpsed the eyes of wolves reflected in the light of his pyre. They sang no dirges, intoned only a few numb prayers. Before the morning winds could sweep his ashes skyward, the plague had struck two others, Genrilka's concubine and her daughter. As though pursuing his bloodline to its thinnest tincture, it assailed more and more members of his household. The sentries upon the walls became fewer, and though they still watched the mountainous horizon, they saw little. The cries of the dying crowded their thoughts with too much horror. Soon, even the sentries were no more. The 5 knights who'd rescued Genrilka from the fields of Elianat lay motionless in their beds. The Grand Vizier, his golden robe stained bloody by his bowel, lay sprawled across his sorcerous texts. Genrilka's uncle, who'd led the heartbreaking assault on Golgadarath's gates in the early days of the apocalypse, hung from a rope in his chambers, slowly twisting in a draught. The queen stared endlessly across festering sheets. Of all those who had fled to Ishual, only Genrilka's bastard son and the bardic priest survived.
"Why won't you show yourself, child?"
he would cry as he reeled his way through the galleries.
"Let me sing to you, woo you with secret songs. Let me share the glory of what once was."
One night, the bard caught the boy. He caressed his cheek, and then his thigh.
"Forgive me,"
he muttered over and over, but tears only fell from his blind eye.
"There are no crimes when no one is left alive."
But the boy lived. 5 nights later, he lured the bardic priest to Ishual's towering walls. When the man shambled by in a drunken stupor, he pushed him from the heights. He crouched for a long while at the fall's edge, staring down through the gloom at the bard's broken corpse. It differed from the others, he decided, only in that it was still wet. Was it murder when no one was left alive? Winter added its cold to the emptiness of Ishual. Propped on the battlements, the child would listen to the wolves sing and feud through the dark forests. He would pull his arms from his sleeves and hug his body against the chill, murmuring his dead mother's songs and savoring the wind's bite on his cheek. He would fly through the courtyards, answering the wolves with Kunioric war cries, brandishing weapons that staggered him with their weight, and once in a while, his eyes wide with hope and superstitious dread, he would poke the dead with his father's sword. When the snows broke, shouts brought him to Ishual's forward gate. Peering through dark embrasures, he saw a group of cadaverous men and women, refugees of the apocalypse. Glimpsing his shadow, they cried out for food, shelter, anything, but the boy was too terrified to reply. Hardship had made them look fearsome, feral, like a wolf people. When they began scaling the walls, he fled to the galleries. Like the bardic priest, they searched for him, calling out guarantees of his safety. Eventually one of them found him cringing behind a barrel of sardines. With a voice neither tender nor harsh, he said,
"We are Dunyain, child. What reason could you have to fear us?"
But the boy clutched his father's sword, crying, "So long as men live, there are crimes." The man's eyes filled with wonder.
"No, child. Only so long as men are deceived."
For a moment, the young Anasarimber could only stare at him. Then solemnly, he set aside his father's sword and took the stranger's hand. "I was a prince," he mumbled. The stranger brought him to the others, and together they celebrated their strange fortune. They cried out, not to the gods they had repudiated, but to one another, that here was evident of a great correspondence of cause. Here awareness most holy could be tended. In Ishual they had found shelter against the end of the world. Still emaciated, but wearing the furs of kings, the Dunyain chiseled the sorcerous runes from the walls and burned the Grand Vizier's books. The jewels, the chalcedony, the silk and cloth of gold, they buried with the corpses of a dynasty. And the world forgot them for 2,000 years.